Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's your brother Gabriel Romani. Welcome to another episode of Real Problems, Real Solutions. The question today is about the female psychology of attraction. How does a female get attracted to a male? And the question comes from men want to understand, how does the brain of the woman work? First and foremost, we have to start by the disclaimer that no two women are necessarily alike, just like no two men. But there are certain patterns that some women fit, meaning there's certain behavior or certain psychology that women will display that is in line with their gender. And the same on the men's side. These are a lot of times general things, and of course specifics can differ from person to person. So you cannot say that two women are exactly the same in the way they feel attracted, for example, to a man, in their sexuality, and so on. But you can say that, in general, you can find a similar pattern and approach amongst many women. And again, not all the women will fit this category. So what about attraction towards men? What do women look for? Guys want to know. When I gave a lecture about 11 women complaining about their husbands, and it was a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, you can go back and I will try to link that lecture into the description of this video. So you can see kind of what are women looking at and how do they complain about their husbands. And the Prophet ﷺ explained that. He was talking to Aisha radiallahu anha. And you can learn a lot, and I've elaborated on that in the video. So check it out. But how does a woman look at a man? What is important for her? And how does she display her affection or her attraction towards that man? First and foremost, we have to understand, again, I keep going to this principle that is a ayah from the Quran, وَلَيْسَ الذَّكَرُ كَالْأُنثَى, that the man is not the same as the woman. They're not the same. They're just different in their psychology and their makeup. Do they have things that are common? Yes, they are. They do, but they're not the same. So the woman is a bit more reserved when it comes to just the natural way. She has more haya, more shyness, bashfulness. However, that can change if her fitra or natural disposition is corrupt, and that is a phenomenon that we see today, the corruption of the Muslim female, the Muslimah, in society due to the surrounding factors, stimuli, social media, hypersexualization of society, things that they see, that they witness, and so on. Now, in general, the woman is not necessarily going to expose those feelings like men do. Men tend to be a bit more vocal and more physical about their feelings and the way they feel. You can say when it comes to the issue of attraction, men are a bit weaker in terms of controlling themselves. And that is something that we see in some of the Sharia injunctions as well as to why they're allowed a few more things than women would be. And that's not the point of this lesson right now. However, so women are, the way I call it like kind of like the makeup phenomenon. I'm looking for a better term, maybe you guys can help me. But it's kind of like the phenomenon of makeup. There's something behind that is totally different than what you see. Now, I'm not saying hypocrisy, a'udhu billah, or anything that women are hypocrites or anything. Again, remember, I gave a disclaimer. It's not two that are the same. But what I'm talking about is there's something in the back that is not what's in the front. With men, it's more like what you see is what you get, in general, other than the people who are bound on being liars and cheaters and so on. Now I know some feminists right now might be turning up and down. So if you don't feel comfortable with continuing this video, I do recommend that you stop now and you just basically exit this lecture, because we're gonna get a bit more in more detail than this. So if you're a feminist, Muslim feminist, whatever, and you're not comfortable with this, just press thank you, stop and go to another video that you want. But if you want to understand a little bit, then you are welcome to stay. So the makeup phenomenon is basically what's behind the makeup is totally different. And sometimes totally different, 180 degrees different. And don't get upset, sisters. I know sisters have, we discussed this issue of lack of confidence and insecurities, and we've addressed that, how society tries to destroy women today with that, with the standards of beauty that they put. But that's not the point of this lecture, again. Now, what do I mean by the makeup phenomenon? So women, they're not going to fully express how they feel, especially about their sexuality and attraction. It is something that a lot of them are very comfortable with, even if it's something quite obscure, but they will not let it out. And they will. Even if you look at studies, women always underreport. Even if, look at, for example, studies on sexuality. Usually, there'll be issues of underreporting when it comes to men. Why? Well, scientists have come up with different explanations. It's my theory, is because they have the haya, or the bashfulness. They are shy still, even non-Muslims. There's something there, unless they totally lost their natural disposition. But even non-Muslims, Allah created them, and they have that. The female has that in her. Society is trying to kill that with an objective. That's why I believe women are not so comfortable being very open about what's inside, as opposed to men who, obviously, إِذَا لَمْ تَسْتَحِي فَاسْنَعْ مَا شِئْتَ. If you're not shy, do whatever you want, as the Prophet ﷺ said, right? Because, men don't have, even though there was Sahabas, there were reported men to be shy, like Uthman radiallahu anh, Abu Bakr and so on. But in general, men are a bit more outgoing. It's just their personality. So women hold back a little bit. Now, how do they see men? Yes, indeed, a woman looks at stability with a man, looks at his personality, while men, in general, the first impression will be the physical appearance. And that's what the Prophet ﷺ said. Islam is not, how can I say? Islam is not about esoteric type of ideas. No, it's about real pragmatic issues. So the Prophet ﷺ said the best woman is, or the best wife is the one that when you look at her, you are pleased. First thing the Prophet ﷺ said, when you look at her, you are pleased. And when you order her, she obeys you. Simple. So, men are usually, they're very influenced visually. They're very stimulated visually. Do women get visually stimulated? Yes. Is that the most important thing? By natural disposition, no. It is an important thing, yes, not the most important thing. So, a woman looks at personality, and that's why, unless the guy is extremely good looking, and this woman's been tormented by culture to really objectify men, and we'll talk about objectification of men, she will not care so much necessarily about his looks. She'll go into the personality, she wants to get to know him. That's why a woman falls in love or gets attracted to a man over a period of time, not right away. While a man, pretty much when he sees the physical appearance of a woman, will get attracted and might even fall for her. So the woman likes stability, likes a man who has a personality, likes a man who offers safety, strength, direction, goals in life. So there's a more, you can say, comprehensive package that she is looking for. She looks at finances. She looks at stability from a financial perspective and materialistic perspective, because it's built in her, as she is created by Allah to be more of the homemaker, right? She is there in the house, the kids, so she needs safety and security. While the man is a bit more outgoing, obviously because he is being created to be out there and to be the provider. But does that mean that women don't care about good looks? They do care about good looks. Do women objectify men? Now, a very important point that you have to understand here, and I always make this point in my lectures, I say Islam comes with a few different angles when it deals with human behavior. So, when we look at the psychology of the human being from an Islamic perspective, through the eyes or the lens, let's say the lenses of the Quran and Sunnah, we find that we have, when the fitrah is uncorrupted, so the human being, in this case the female, is according to following the Sharia, and when this person has stepped outside of the boundaries of Sharia, so it's more like, so preemptive and then damage control. So I think for us in the 21st century, especially for Muslims living in the West and in the East right now with social media, with satellite dishes and all the available culture that has created this global village, I am almost, how can I say, confident in saying that most men and women that we're dealing with are or have been affected by this globalization, materialism, hedonism, following desires, and so on. And it is the dawa of shaitan. Shaitan has reached us through different means. So when you look now at a female and you ask yourself a question as to how does she get attracted to a man, it's not the same that you might have asked 100 years ago or 500 years ago or 1,000 years ago. Could have been some shared elements? Yes. But I think that even on the female side, right now, the objectification, the appearance, the sexualization of male is important. You do find a big double standard. So when men now, and this is part of the attack, when men now, if they ever describe a female, saying that maybe she's like this, she's like that, I want a bit skinnier, a bit this, a bit that, that will be something called, I think, body shaming. And men are attacked for that. If the woman says, oh, he's got, six pack and look at those arms, and they do say that. Now I know some sisters, again, if you're not comfortable, you can turn it off. But a lot of sisters will put that on their list. Why? Is that because it's part of their fitra? Yes, women do like to have a handsome man. But it's also because they've been conditioned through the films of these famous actors and handsome actors, men, who play a certain role that is obviously not real. But the way the brain reacts is that the woman gets infatuated with, you can say, not who that person is, but what he is or what he represents. Does that make sense? So in that movie, he is this. So what is he? He is this hero, this bad boy. So she's infatuated with that. That changes her and her perception of males and what she looks for. She might not even know it. It's subconscious. And next time she will assess a male for the possibility of marriage, she will, without knowing, be affected by that dormant stimuli or that experience that she had by watching that film. This is just one example. Imagine going through years, 10, 15, 20 years of being conditioned that way. So no doubt she will say, I want him to have a six-pack or tattoos, or of course tattoos haram, I know that. I'm just talking about the bad boy thing. Girls, even Muslim girls, they like the tattoo, the scruffy, the roughy, the clean, the dry, whatever. Men, they have a certain picture depending on what they felt infatuated and what they've been exposed to. And in many cases, for example, some clients that I deal with, they report marrying because their family pushed them to marry a guy that they did not feel attracted to whatsoever. In the words of one of the sisters, I feel disgusted if he touches me or looks at me in a desired way. Of course, you will judge her and you'll say, astaghfirullah, she should fear Allah. I agree with you. But that does not take away from her experience that she's had years ago, that she's been conditioned by society and the external stimuli of social media, movies, whatever it might have you, Bollywood, Hollywood, and so on. You have to understand. We need to understand. If we don't understand, we can just point fingers and judge. And yes, it is correct. I mean, that does not absolve them from the blame or and so on. But to understand where they're coming from. Are they entitled to have a certain guy that they like or a certain type of guy? Yes, they are. There's nothing wrong with that. But we just need to understand where it comes from. And to compare that to if their fitra would be uncorrupted, maybe 100, 200 years when there's no so much stimulation and exposure as there is today. So yes, they want the six-pack, they want the biceps, they want the tall guys. They do want, there's a concept called hypergamy where basically women tend to hit higher on the scale in society, the qualifications of the men, the looks, the money, and so on and so forth. But do they objectify men? Again, I'll go back to the issue of what versus who. Who is that guy, his personality, and so on. Does it really matter as much as it did 100 years ago? I would say no. Even though there are women who will disagree and I'll say, no, for me, it does. And I agree with that. But there is a wave, let's say. And I will show you now, as you can see on the screen, you will see when this man visited London. His name is, all of them know him, but I'm not showing him. But this is what happened when he visited London. Okay, he is a Muslim blogger. I'll leave his name out because people get very sensitive when I mention names. And no matter what, it's like, oh brother. So they turn off, so I'd rather leave it for now. But you can see the screen. This is when he visited London. And look how your Muslim sisters, the daughters of Muslim brothers, who are good Muslims maybe, Allah knows best obviously, not one, two, but a lot of them, and how they reacted. Why? Because they've been infatuated by what he is, what he represents, his success, his popularity. They don't know him. They've never talked to him, some of them. This is the first time they came to, maybe even in this event, they did not see him because he ran away, because some brothers tried to catch him. For whatever reason, that's not my business. However, these big wave of women, sisters, some guys around as well, acting a bit weird, behaving this way because they're infatuated by what he represents, his videos. They think he is cute, he is handsome, but his personality that he displays in these videos is the what that they are very attracted to. So yes, women will objectify men. Yes, women will look at these things. Yes, women will be attracted by their image, by their display of bad boy type of character or personality that is, again, connects to some of the action videos that they've seen, the Hollywood, the Bollywood, the whatever, in which they kind of stood there and were like, wow, look at this. Because the action is so powerful. It's an hour and 20 minutes, maybe, this film. But it has a huge impact on the way these women see men. And of course, the way men see women as well. So do women objectify men? Yes, in the 21st century, they do. Do all women objectify men? No, I didn't say that. But now there's a huge growing trend, right? Calendars of firefighter men with big muscles and six packs and all kinds of things. Things that men would do to women, usually, these pictures and whatever, calendars. Now it's happening. Of course, the feminists did not want to stay behind and conserving the shyness of the female gender. They pushed, and they're now wanting to catch up with this kind of behavior. So they do objectify men. There are male strip clubs, i.e. where men are dancing. In the West, it is quite prevalent. The bachelorette party is quite a big thing that happens amongst women. It happens now even amongst Muslim women. I know you'll be upset by this, but this is the reality. So it's changing. Why again? What's the one element that's in common here for everyone? Is of course Shaitan. Shaitan is very smart. He will come up. He's basically very patient. He studies the psychology of the human being, the changes in trend and cultures. He influences things. Through his waswasa, he influences the person who can influence others. That's why they're called influencers. And I'm sure that he influences them on a regular basis. And then they influence us because that's what we look, sweep, whatever, swipe, left, right, and so on. And people change very, very fast. Compare our culture to our parents' culture to our grandparents' culture, to their grandparents' culture. There's been changes. But the most abrupt change has happened now. Now, where things have changed. They're weird. Now, women started raping men as well, starting abusing men. I'm not saying that it's okay for men to do it, but it's something that we didn't see as much in the history, but now it's happening more. Women are becoming more masculine. They're becoming more pushy. And the question is again, why and what can we do about it? But anyway, the objective of this video was to show you that in the 21st century, women do look for what the man is. They do objectify men. They will not necessarily fully show those emotions. It's more like, as I said, the makeup phenomenon. What's inside doesn't really come out, except, and now I want to make here an important point that I spoke before about, when there's diffusion of responsibility. As you've seen in the video that I showed you, it's because there was a group of women. Women, when they are in the group, when they go for their bachelorette parties or to the strip club or whatever, they really reinforce and help each other in transgression. If one or two who are a bit more wild, they start acting up, then the other ones are going to follow. The same thing that happened maybe in this video, couple of girls who are maybe a bit more corrupt, start screaming, running, trying to grab the guy, and then everyone just followed. This kind of behavior in psychology is called diffusion of responsibility, or the group, the psychology of the group. Basically, people going, when they're in a big group, you don't feel like I'm the only one doing something wrong. This kind of psychology, this kind of approach has been very, very prevalent throughout the history of mankind when it came to huge crimes that have happened. Now, here I'm not talking about crime, but indeed it is haram. But that's the mentality. That is the phenomenon, right? We're in a group, we're more than one woman, let's all misbehave now. It happens, you've seen it, and it is a reality. So going back to the question of the brothers, what do women look for in a man these days? Yes, they look for character. Yes, they look for personality. Yes, they look for wealth, stability, security, safety. But they do look for looks and for what this man is. Who is he? But what he is, what he represents. What is his position in society, his money, the issue of hypergamy, as I said. These are real and important things. Why am I saying this? Well, for men, they need to understand the psychology, because a lot of men report that they cannot get married anymore. Women as well, but a lot of men now, they're scared to get married, they don't want to get married. What's the solution? Well, the solution is always to return back to the Quran and Sunnah. We are dealing with damage control, however. So can men take a bit more care about their personality? Yes. Can they take care a bit more about their physique and their looks? I believe so. I believe it's important. Can they have a more dominant approach and image as a whole? I believe so. I believe it's still okay and halal to do so in order to obviously to attract a good spouse. And the vetting before the marriage is very important, that things get opened up and discussed, that nothing gets left to, I don't know, maybe I thought so. Now again, we're talking about fitra 50 years ago, 100 years ago. It's totally different. It would have been courtship would have been a different thing. And today, where people are courting on applications and all these things. Be careful that things are clear, open. Present yourself in a halal manner, but in a proper manner. There were some of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, they had a very strong image and character, mashallah. And definitely when you read their lives in the description, as a personality, they were very attractive, very stimulating, mashallah, very masculine. And indeed, women were looking at them. There is even one Sahaba that he was very, very handsome to the point that, and there's some reports that he was not allowed to move that freely, or he would have to cover, because his demeanor, his looks and so on were very attractive and causing fitna to the women of the city of Medina. So these are things we need to consider. Again, I think people get a bit oversensitive when we discuss this, but when you bring evidence from the Quran, the Sunnah, from the life of the Sahaba, and you look at these things, I think people need to understand that Islam is pragmatic. Islam is about reality, because it is a deen of fitrah. And we're discussing these issues just to educate the young men and women to understand at least each other's psychologies. The fitrah, which was at one point clean, how is it today? Is everyone corrupted? No. Are some people corrupt? Yes. That's just the reality. But does that mean we write them off? No, we need to deal with it. That's why I said damage control. Sharia addresses the issues of damage control and takes care of these things. Well, hopefully, tazkiyat to nafs and purification of heart can remove some things and take us closer towards the natural fitrah, inshaAllah. So, barakallahu fikum, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and protect you. And if you like these videos and enjoyed them, please check the description and become a patron or join the membership on YouTube to help me create more videos and share with everyone so they can be educated. Barakallahu fikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.